Oh, thank you so much for calling me back. I appreciate it very much.
Yeah, no problem. How can we help?
I've had my in-trust private property stolen in an act of a fraudulent foreclosure, and I believe it's to allow individuals in British Columbia to launder money.
Okay, so when you say in-trust private property, what does that mean?
So I'm a widow.
Mm-hmm.
My spouse created a will, which is a trust, and when he passed away, the property then became part of the trust, and it eliminates all third-party creditors, and now I've had a bank. I know this sounds unbelievable, and I'm so not lying to you. I've had a bank file a fraudulent foreclosure petition through the BC Supreme Court, and I went in a myriad of different times, and I said to them, there's a contract in place here. You can't steal my house. I don't owe any money. I don't know what you're talking about. But they wouldn't listen to me, and not only did they steal the house, which you can't do, the BC Supreme Court agents then embezzled the entire estate and have paid it into the BC Finance Minister. So as I've thought about this very carefully, because I'm the one who's on the receiving end of this crime. It just seems to me like the individuals who were given this mortgage didn't have the home even for a year. And then it's now been sold to a couple of others, and I believe that these individuals all know each other. I believe that this is an act of, it's title fraud to facilitate money laundering in British Columbia, and I know that this is a serious issue in the province. It's driving the house prices up because they've turned my residential property into a commercial property for greed purposes alone.
Okay, so what I'm understanding is that you were left the property in trust, you live there, but there are other individuals who have a mortgage on the property?
No, see, this is it. Now, my spouse had life insurance on our mortgage, so once he passed away, whatever was owing on the mortgage was paid out completely and fully by the life insurance policy he had on the mortgage, so there was no mortgage. Now, what they've done is they are claiming that a credit line, which, yes, it was secured by the house. Yes, I realize all of that, but it's not a mortgage. It's a credit line secured by the house, and I am not on the contract. I'm not responsible for anything that my spouse was surety or guarantor for once he passes away. And the other thing is my spouse doesn't own anything once he passes away. It's owned by the trust.
Right, so what you're saying is that there's a credit line secured against the property and the bank wants their money back, essentially. Is that right?
Well, they're claiming it's a mortgage, and it's not because it's never once listed on our annual mortgage statement. So I'm fully aware that the banks hold insurance policies on all secured and unsecured loans. So when I was going in and out of the bank to do the estate business, which I have to do because I'm the trustee, I'm my spouse's trustee. I'm not sure if you're aware or not, but common law spouses have the same rights as legally married individuals in BC and have had that right since 2013. Now, the trust is very simple. It's 2 pages and it's crystal clear that no third parties can move in. My name wasn't on the loan. My name wasn't on that line of credit. So I'm not responsible for any of his contracts, and once he passes away, he doesn't own anything anymore. All his property, it funds the trust. And it's the 3 beneficiaries who have right to the property, not a third party.
But the bank secured a credit line against the property rather than the individual, is that correct?
Well, that's how they've secured the loan, but I know that the bank holds insurance policies on all unsecured and secured loans. So what they did was, when I was going in and out of CIBC to handle the estate, I was told by one of the agents that the $40,000 credit line was no longer on my spouse's account because what the bank had done was they had applied to the insurance company to have that credit line paid out in full, and they were paid out in full. And then thinking they could trick me, they hired lawyers from Kamloops and lawyers from Victoria, and they ran a fraudulent foreclosure So individuals in BC here could launder some money through BC real estate, and it's a serious problem here in the province. That's what's driving the prices up.
So are you saying that your bank is laundering, CIBC is laundering money?
Well, like, why are you stealing interest private property? Like, that contract is the court, so no third party, like, the court never even had subject matter jurisdiction. They couldn't get it, but it didn't matter to them that they couldn't, because it's a family matter. Like, it's a private family matter, right? That's how wealth stays in families. That's why my spouse bought a trust fund, in the form of a last will and testament. So clearly this is about greed. It's about money, and now they've turned my residential address into a commercial address, which means that there's all these different corporations now making way more money off of that property illegally, because you can't steal a widow's house and then embezzle all the money. Like, it just doesn't make any sense. But they've done it, and they've done it to me.
When you say they turned your residential property into a commercial property, what do you mean?
Okay, I'm so sorry. Let me explain. You poor thing, you know what? I'm living this out, but you're hearing this for the first time, so this must sound just nuts to you. So the first individuals who had a fraudulent mortgage on my home didn't have the house for even a year. Now there's two other individuals on that house who have a mortgage through Scotiabank. And so these two individuals, Benjamin Howe and Senator Dennis of Victoria, British Columbia, have bought that property illegally, unlawfully, because the first two individuals never had a valid mortgage on the house, because it's an act of title fraud by CIBC to steal the property from me. So these two now, they have a holding company called Howe Fam Holdings, and they're using that property because my house is 2 floors, both self-contained. So now they're making a whole bunch of money off of rent using my stolen property.
Right, but you said that the property was left to you in trust and the mortgages were paid off by the mortgage company, including the credit line.
Okay, so do you understand about contract law and how contracts work and how estates work in estate law? And I'm not asking to be facetious. I'm just simply asking so I know where you're coming from, so I know why you're asking these questions. That's the only reason why I'm asking. I'm not trying to be combative or anything. I just need to know what your level of understanding is, because I understand all of this very well. I've had to learn it.
Okay. Well, obviously, I don't know estate law. I don't even know law. I'm not a legal advisor. I don't give legal advice. But I'm asking these questions because I still don't have a clear picture of what's happening.
Yeah.
But what I would say to you is, have you taken legal advice to help you sort this out?
Well, you see, that's the problem. That's how I even got into this mess in the first place, by seeking advice, then being told fraudulent advice, because you have to understand, I did go to a couple of different individuals after my spouse passed away to receive, some kind of help, because this is the first time I've ever dealt with this kind of a matter where I've been placed as executrix over an estate. And so I was still naive in thinking that these individuals were out to help me, when the truth is they weren't out to help me at all. They saw money and they wanted to steal as much as they could. And that's, the entire estate's been embezzled. And the house has been stolen by an act of title fraud and application fraud. So CIBC put the house in their name fraudulently with no right to do so. And once they had the house in their name, they just basically became power of attorney without due process. They took over the entire estate. They cut me right out, along with the other two beneficiaries. And now the province of British Columbia is $700,000 richer from stealing my property and embezzling the entire estate, all to facilitate money laundering through BC real estate.
Okay, so obviously, this is quite a complex matter, and that's why I'm suggesting you take legal advice. Obviously, I think you probably gathered that yourself, but it's just not something we can advise you on, obviously.
So, but I need to report to you that there's money laundering going on through fraudulent foreclosures in the province, and you have to take the report. I also have all the evidence I can send you. of all the things that I've said to you, I've become an expert in the legal field because I've had to. Because every time I talk to someone who apparently has something to do with legal, they don't know what they're talking about. And this is the problem. Now, I've been homeless for 2 years because of this.
Yeah. Okay. So then what you're saying is the banks are the major party engaged in money laundering. Is that correct? Is that what we're saying? The banks are money laundering, yeah?
Now, I don't want to say that to you, but you have to understand is...
No, but you've just said to me, this is an act of money laundering. I want to file a complaint. And what I'm trying to establish is, who is money laundering? What is the entity that is money laundering, and exactly how are they doing it? What are they laundering? Okay, they're laundering, let's just say, money in some shape or form. But how is it being laundered? I'm just not clear, because you need to know where to file your complaint, and it sounds like it won't be with us, right? Because it sounds like you're dealing with a federal institution rather than a provincial institution, right? CIBC?
Well, but the Supreme Court of British Columbia has facilitated this crime. Like, they're the ones who never had subject matter jurisdiction. They couldn't have it. It's a family matter. It's a private family matter. That's why you buy a trust. That's why you set a trust up. So it eliminates third parties. So what you have to understand is when my spouse passed away, the house was mortgage-free. Banks don't like that. Banks don't like mortgage-free properties. So in order to put a mortgage on that property, which was mortgage-free once he passed away, in order to do that, they stole it from me through a title and application fraud, CIBC, in order to put a mortgage on the house, a fraudulent mortgage, by the first two, and I don't know which bank the first two used, but I do know that Scotiabank now is now issued a fraudulent mortgage to Benjamin Howe and Sandra Dennis of Victoria, BC, on a house that there's no way they could even have interest in because it's been stolen from me.
Okay, so what I'm gathering is that the Supreme Court of BC is engaged in money laundering and at least one major bank, yeah?
Well, there's CIBC and Scotiabank, and like I say, I'm not quite sure who the first two had their mortgage with. I didn't actually obtain that information because now, what I did was I did a land title search, and that's how I found out that my home was again passed off to two other individuals, and they have a mortgage through Scotiabank.
Right, okay, but it sounds like, we regulate the practice of licensed real estate professionals. That's who we regulate. So we don't regulate federal banks or the Supreme Court, obviously. So we look at the conduct of real estate professionals and how they might have unwittingly or wittingly engaged in money laundering. But in your case, you're accusing the Supreme Court of BC and probably two federal banks. That would be outside our jurisdiction.
But what you have to understand is real estate agents have been involved in these crimes. The first real estate agent who took on the matter, when I informed this real estate agent that this was in-trust private property, that it couldn't be stolen from me and sold, they completely washed their hands of the whole thing. And then the lawyers for CIBC had to go find other real estate agents who then I informed repeatedly, listen, if you don't stop what you're doing, you're going to be held responsible. I will have your license removed from you. Right? You can't involve yourselves in a criminal matter, and that's what you're doing. And now I do know that Martin Homes has been the second real estate agency now. Kirsten Martin is now involved in this as well. So that they didn't do their due diligence, right? So now you've got Jones, is it Jones Co., Jonestown Co., or Jones Co., Bradley Walker and Jay Yoon. They both knew what was going on, and they did not care. All they wanted was the money from, whatever commissions that they make for listing and selling. So you real estate agents are involved in this, and they knew full well what was happening because I informed them of the matter. So it's not like they were ignorant to what was going on. They just didn't care.
So what you're saying is
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, there are.
Right, but I got the impression it was just the bank.
I'm so sorry.
Closing on.
Well, I'm so sorry. That is what happened. But then they had to have real estate agents involved in the matter, and I believe it's Miles something or other. He was actually a very nice man, and when I informed him that this was a private matter, like it's in trust private property, you can't come and do this. He completely washed his hands of the whole thing because he saw what was happening and he didn't want anything to do with it. And then Daniel Carroll from Kamloops Fulton and Company went and hired Bradley Walker and Jay Yoon. Please excuse me, sir, for not knowing the exact name of the real estate company, but I think it's Jones Co. or Jones Company or something from Victoria here. They were very much involved in this act of money laundering, and they full well knew what was going on because I informed them of the matter to stay away from it, because if they didn't, I was going to pursue the matter and make sure that they were held responsible and accountable.
Okay, but remember, the real estate agents don't act for you, they act for the bank.
But once they're informed that there's a crime being committed, if they continue on, then they're an accessory to the crime.
So, was anyone convicted of the crime in a court of law?
Well, here's the funny thing. I'm not sure how aware you are of how corrupt the justice system is here in Canada, most corrupt in the world. I have filed a claim of action. Unfortunately, the attorney generals here covered for all their buddies. So now I'm basically left hung out to dry, and everything my spouse and I worked to have has been stolen, and I've been left literally with nothing. From a $700,000 house that I owned outright. It's been stolen from me, and all the money embezzled.
Okay, so do you have a lawyer to advise you on this?
Sir, you know what? I've learned the hard way that they're the last that you want to talk to. You need to know what you're talking about before you talk to them, because the majority of them are wholly, completely incompetent and don't know what they're talking about. So that's why I'm now handling these matters, because I'm an expert on the matters I'm dealing with. I've had to become an expert on these matters, and I do know the legal rules, and I do know that what they did, this is to facilitate money laundering in British Columbia through BC real estate.
So describe to me how the money is being laundered, because money laundering is usually funds that are gained from illicit activities such as drug trafficking and terrorism, and funneled through the financial system in secretive ways so as to disguise the origin of the funds, and placed and cleaned in legitimate places.
Like BC casinos. BC casinos, it's the same problem in the BC casinos, right? They launder their money through the BC casinos or BC real estate.
Okay, so just describe to me how the Supreme Court of Canada, or the two banks that you named, how are they money laundering? Like, how does it fit the definition of money laundering?
Well, why would you steal in-trust private property and then embezzle the entire inheritance? So these individuals, right, can get a mortgage on a house and not even have the house for a year. They didn't even have possession of my home for a year, and all of a sudden they're putting it up for sale with not even having it for a year. It doesn't make any sense to me at all.
I think what you need to do is get some legal advice. I don't think this fits the definition of money laundering, but I'm not a legal expert. I mean, the way you've described it to me is you feel that something has been taken from you, stolen from you, misappropriated, deception, theft. I mean, it doesn't seem to fit the definition of money laundering. Either way, again, I'm not a lawyer, but you would go and get legal advice on this to help you untangle it, I'm afraid.
Okay, but your BC real estate agents have involved themselves in a legal activity.
Yeah, but we don't know that yet, whether it's illegal or not, until it's been proven in a court of law, right?
Well, that's the last place you prove the truth, because they don't hear the truth in those courts.
Right, okay. So, I mean, what I can say to you is I don't think there is grounds for a complaint here. However, you're more than welcome to go onto our website and file a complaint if you wish to do so.
So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to sue the real estate agents in their personal capacity. And And I will, I have to, right? Like, you can't involve yourselves in title fraud and application fraud, by the way, which is a crime happening in Canada twice a week. And it's happening to widows with mortgage-free homes just like mine. And these acts are being facilitated by real estate agents across the country. So you are involved in basically criminal activity, BC real estate agents, which is why I called, because I was given this number by the BC Real Estate Association.
Okay, no, of course. I mean, you've described a complaint which is based on money laundering, okay, and you've described to me how you felt something was taken from you, stolen from you, misappropriated. Okay, so that's where that conversation has been centering around, and I've said to you, if you feel that you need or want to make a complaint, please do so. You could do it online in a matter of minutes. Okay, now, if you're saying, well, I actually have proof, I have evidence.
I do.
The real estate professionals have been engaged in title fraud, money laundering, theft, deception, misappropriation of funds. Of course you should file a complaint. But
right.
The question here is always, do you have proof? It's one thing to allege criminal conduct, but you should have some proof or reasonable proof that this activity is occurring by licensed real estate professionals.
Sir, I would never call you and waste your time or waste my time if I didn't have any proof, because I'm not that kind of a woman. And I do understand your perspective and your point of view and your opinion, and I appreciate it very much. But you have to understand, I would never accuse anybody of anything that they weren't guilty of. I'm not permitted to do that. I'm a righteous woman. I'm not permitted to give false testimony against my neighbor. That's an act of blasphemy, and I'll go to hell for that.
Right, but what I'm advising you on is I don't have any opinion on what you say. It's not a question of whether I believe you or not. It's a question of I'm listening to your story to find out, are there any genuine triggers that would give you solid grounds for a complaint? And that's all I'm trying to do is just advise you as based on what you've told me, do I see a reasonable grounds? And so that's all I'm trying to do. I don't have any opinion on the matter. But, of course, as always, if you believe or have proof, if you have some proof or reasonable proof on illegal activity by licensed professionals, yes, we would like to get that complaint from you,
I'll be happy to do that for you, sir. I've written a number of different documents with all the proof that this has been going on for a couple of years now, so I had to go do my own research and legal research to find out, like, what in the heck is going on here. And it's just it all boils down to greed, but basically, right? You know what age we're living in, don't you? These are the days of Noah. If you know anything about Scripture, and I'm an expert in Scripture, so I know what stage of the age that we're in. Yeah, so it's pretty bad, and to do that to a grieving widow is unconscionable. And your real estate agents are involved, so I will do that, sir. I will forward the information and the proof that I have to your agency, and I hope I can get some type of relief or remedy from the proof that I will provide to you.
Well, we only will investigate misconduct. We don't provide any financial remedies or
No, that's fine. That's why I'm telling you that I'm going to have to sue these real estate agents in their personal capacity for involving themselves in this just outrageous crime. Outrageous crime.
Okay, all right. Yeah. Okay. Okay, that's about as far as I can take you on this issue, I'm afraid.
Okay, no problem. I appreciate you calling me back.
Okay, lovely. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, so 25 minutes. 25 minutes that call. Did you see what was happening there? Not really believing me. Not really wanting to take action, right? Because we don't want to tarnish the entire BC real estate industry, do we? No, it's all about ducking and dodging and covering and whatnot. More hamster wheel bullshit of going round and round and round and round and round, just wasting my time. This is the kind of public services that are available to a righteous woman who has been leveled now by yet another act of genocide. Well, when you can't launder the money through BC casinos, you have to launder the money through BC real estate. And that's exactly what BC Asians are doing. Well, I'm sorry, that's the truth, and if you don't like it, I really don't give a flying fuck about your opinion. That's what's happened here. The first two set of Asians know the second two set of Asians. Of course they do. Yeah, I don't get it wrong. Ever.